What's good? Welcome back to Just King's World on my hip hop ish. We present to you Dope Read. What is Dope Read? Dope Read is a segment where we talk about books that you need to be up on, books that provoke thought, books that definitely from authors from the hip hop community. Why not? Because this is on my hip hop ish. We're going to continue doing that, keeping it authentic to what we about. We are still reading 2 Chainz, The Voice in My Head is God. Thank you for staying tuned with me. We are going into chapter 3, which is called Starship on Old National. If you haven't already checked out chapters 1 and 2, you can definitely check it out on our channel. Definitely encourage you to buy this book yourself, and you can follow along with me. But let's get into it. Starship on Old National. My senior year of high school, I was mostly about basketball and money. If you saw me, you probably saw a basketball close by. And if you really saw me, there was probably some money around. I can't say I was any different from a lot of people I knew. We all had ideas about how to move our family situations forward. When you're raised in a trap, you can find yourself dodging traps, contemplating how to move beyond the circumstances consuming you. It wasn't like I didn't love my neighborhood and the people in it. I loved my people. Trunks rattling on a hot-ass summer day, weed smoke circling in the air. The trap had love in it every single day. That love isn't talked about nearly enough. That stated, I didn't love the limitations, the violence, the pain, the hopelessness. It was always in me to make sure me and my mama had a way out. I wanted us to see the world. I wanted us to see the world and then come back to the trap and report on everything we saw. I had started selling weed in middle school. High school was no different. Being a star on a basketball team didn't put bread on the table. That was a fact. And being a star on a basketball team didn't stop me from hanging out in the stores that felt like spaceships. This story begins on a late Thursday afternoon in my going to Starship Enterprises to grab weed baggies. If you were never inside a Starship Enterprises store in the mid-90s, you definitely missed out on something. Starship was a chain, a novelty chain. I'm pretty sure they're still around. They had everything from porn to paraphernalia to t-shirts, bongs, scales, chains, whips, whatever you can name. Any and everything to keep a young man's attention. It was extravagant. Think ATLiens and Aquemini outcasts. That's what it felt like in there. Like you walked into an Outkast album. We would go in there to check out the latest stuff. I remember they had these little stash cans and stash spots for drugs. We go in, look at the new inventory, and eventually spend money. The layout was like any other department store, but the decor was definitely different. The aisles were lit up neon rainbow, and the logo was a big-ass spaceship, outlined in purple and pink. The marketing strategy had to be, if you're looking for smoke, kink, or choke, we got you. They sold every kind of debauchery item you could imagine. Lingerie, costumes, bondage, restraints, lubricants, sex toys. To keep it 100, I was just trying to make some money. But my senior year, I was going to school on my own. My mom was no longer waking me up in the morning. Well, technically, she never woke me up. She would just come into my room in the morning and turn the light on. That would normally be enough to wake me up. By the time I got to high school, she stopped doing that. I got up on my own. I was self-motivated in the mornings. I actually enjoyed school. I enjoyed learning. I enjoyed being around people. I've always been an extrovert. Always preferred socializing. I also preferred looking fresh and having my outfits together. That required money. My senior year, I had been doing well in school. I made A's and B's and was gearing up to take the SAT. I hadn't been in a hurry to take the SAT because I felt like I had good test-taking skills. It was a requirement for me to secure a basketball scholarship, but I never believed I needed to take it more than once. I figured I'd take the test and be good after that. I didn't need to rehearse. That Thursday afternoon, I got a little weed in. I went to Starship because I heard about some brand new weed baggies. I remember walking in with my homeboy and employees being like, "What up?" Because they know me. They knew what I was about and what I was on. They knew I was a trapper. I was a regular. I like to explain my movement that day in military terms. When we walked into Starship, the register was at 11 o'clock. To my right, about 2 o'clock, there was all the porn party supplies. And then to my left, about 9 o'clock, were the new baggies. When we came in, I made a left, right to the new baggies. My homeboy made a right towards the new porn. That nigga was a freak. The new baggies were more vertical than horizontal. Think of today's weed packaging and how folks can now sell product more according to the packaging, how the packaging looks. That's how the new baggies were. They had a new kind of look. I've always been into marketing since a very early age. I knew that baggies could sell themselves off the look. We called the horizontal baggies pillow sacks. Everybody had been using pillow sacks for a while. These were longer, sleeker, and most importantly, new. If I knew anything about anybody, I knew niggas love new shit. Shoes, records, cars, girls, etc. I was willing to bet they loved the new bags. It didn't matter the weed would be the same. The new bags was enough to convince them they were smoking something new. Marketing has always been one of my strengths. The new baggies were a way for me to rebrand. We left Starship right around the time the sun left the sky. It was getting dark, and I needed to get everything bagged up. My pops was in prison my senior year. Right before he got locked up, he won a green Mercury Grand Marquis. It was an old school. He won a raffle or something in LaGrange, Georgia. The raffle came with a car. He called me right before going in and said, "Son, go get that car." I went and got it earlier that year, and it had been mine since. It was heavy and long. On the outside, it looked like a true pimp mobile, like a true player had to be the owner. But it had its hang-ups. The carpet floors and vinyl-covered upholstery, the ashtray had seen too many bodies, so there was a smell underneath the air fresheners. But that wasn't the worst. The worst was that it didn't have power steering. That was the worst. I damn near feel like right now my biceps and triceps came from driving that fucking car. We left Starship in that car. I dropped my homeboy off and muscled the wheels back to the house. When I walked in, my mom was knocking out dishes. Big Saturday coming up, right, Ty? My mom has always called me Ty, short for Taid. She was talking about the SAT, but I wasn't thinking about the test at all. I was locked in on the weed I needed to bag before bed. The house was quiet, which was on par for a Thursday night. I was supposed to take the SAT Saturday morning. It was just a formality. I've been the consummate honor roll student. Learning came easy to me. The SAT was just another thing to do. I had never been a dummy in school. I flossed as new shoes. I got my first C in college and literally had to try. I wanted to see what being average felt like. It sounds crazy, but it was a game I wanted to play. I wasn't trying to mock the system or nothing like that. I just needed to know what getting a C felt like. I got a C by simply not going to class. I went to my mom and started bagging the weed. I went to my room to start bagging the weed, but was devastated when my DigiScale malfunctioned. It completely stopped calibrating. Out of nowhere, I put a nickel on it. Instead of reading 0.5 grams, the screen wouldn't read shit. My world was ending. My mind was racing because I knew I didn't have a lot of time. If you never sold drugs, you wouldn't know how it feels to get new work. And if you've never gotten new work, you wouldn't know the high of finding a new way to market it. I had new work, I had new baggies, but I didn't have a functioning fucking DigiScale. And that truth was a tragedy. When you're a trap nigga, you can pay to borrow somebody's scale. You can't just go around using people's scale. That's not how it works. You have to give up something. I walked around our apartment complex looking to find a scale to borrow. For some reason, I kept coming up short. It was like everybody was out in the streets that night, and the people around didn't have shit. All the stores were closed, and for some reason, something told me to get in touch with Big Bo. To this day, I didn't know how I found him, but I did. Big Bo had a triple beam scale. I had never used one. My pops had a triple beam. I like to bring the scale up because I feel like that scale jinxed me. And I haven't used a triple beam since. It was like I lucked up, but I fucked up because he stayed a little far from me. That meant I had to get back in the Grand Marquis and drive a minute. I didn't care. Nothing was going to stop me from bagging that night. I can't say it was a chore though. I had been used to battery operated digital scales. Triple beams are like the doctor scales that make you measure until the weight is right. It's much more time consuming, but I didn't have a choice. Thinking back on it, I had no idea why I didn't try putting a battery in my digital scale. It probably was an easy fix. I guess it doesn't matter now. Things go the way they're supposed to. Nobody can convince me that Bo's triple beam scale wasn't a jinx. The moment I got the scale to my bedroom, something told me not to use it. It wasn't because I didn't know how it worked or that I was worried about weighing the weed wrong. Something about the damn scale seemed like it had been cursed, like it had ghosts around it. Bo's old ass scale should have had a funeral. It had weighed enough dope. I didn't know about his past. Maybe it had gotten Boo rich, or somebody he known rich, or had done just enough work to get niggas through some hard times. Either way, its best days were behind it. And my intuition was telling me to just wait. Something was telling me to fix my digi-scale and get the work off next week. But I was committed and I didn't listen. Friday had to be the day. Come hell or high water, I was getting that shit off. My mom must have felt something was off too. Had almost finished bagging everything when she opened my door and saw everything I had going on. She saw all the weed and all the new baggies. It was actually only about $100 worth. But all that Nick Sacks made it look like a lot. My mom stood in the doorway watching me concentrate on the last few baggies. She saw me putting that old ass gigantic scale to work. But what is you doing? What you about to take? Where you about to take all this weed? To school tomorrow? That's a lot of damn weed, Ty. Why are you taking so much? Tomorrow, Friday, Mom. These folks gonna buy this weed. I understand that. Why are you taking so much? That's a lot of weed, Ty. Everybody wants weed on Friday for the weekend. I usually sell out, but I won't sell out tomorrow. I got enough for everybody. She left my room, but not before giving me one last look that let me know I was fucking up. The thing about our relationship was that she trusted me to know what I was doing. She trusted my instincts and leadership capabilities. We had been through so much. Our survival had never been playing it safe. Our lives had been like a game of chance. Sometimes we won and sometimes we didn't. My mom knew me better than anybody else in the world. And I could tell by how she looked at me that she knew we'd lose this one. But she never told me. She never told me no. She never mentioned losing. My mom's intuition was trying to tell me it wasn't a good idea. She probably didn't know how to articulate it. And I know back then I couldn't imagine how strong her intuition was. I assumed she was just tripping, overreacting. I finished bagging the weed and went to sleep. The next morning I woke up at the same time I always do and conducted my same morning routine. I wanted to look extra sharp, extra clean. I remember exactly what I wore to school that morning. Red polo, chino jacket, cream polo, chino pants, plaid button-down polo shirt, tucked in, polo boots, giving drip to North Clayton High School. Fashion all the way. I pulled the green Mercury Grand Marquis into the school's parking lot. I was in a great mood even though the weather was dreary and my snatch-out CD player was acting up. I wanted to start getting off my packs before the bell rang and school started. People knew me, knew my car, and knew that on most Fridays I had work. That was my play, to serve before school, at lunch and after school. The students would give me their little $5 and I'd give them a knick-sack. It was easy. Well, it was mostly easy. North Clayton High School had eyes in the sky. By this time, there had been a murder in the parking lot and a suicide in the school. They were armed with cameras very early on. In fact, North Clayton might be the first school in Atlanta to have surveillance cameras. We didn't have metal detectors back then, but we fucking did have surveillance. While this fact made me cautious about how I made my plays this morning, it certainly didn't stop me. I did what I had to do until the bell rang, and once it did, school started off normal. English first period, math second period, history third period. Nothing was off about the first couple of classes, but at some point during history, something just didn't feel right. I can't explain what it was, but something told me the routine nature of the day would soon be changing, and it did. About halfway through the period, there was a disturbance outside the door. I initially didn't pay it too much attention because I was staring out the window trying to calculate the work I had left. Our history teacher went to the door and started talking to two white guys outside the classroom. The white guys weren't nothing to write home about. I figured they might have been some counselors, or maybe we have some sort of impromptu procedure discussion. I wasn't at all paying them much attention until they started pointing in my direction, motioning me to come to the door. And I did, but once I got close, I realized they were carrying badges. These two motherfuckers were cops. There was nothing I could do. The two white guys smiled at me and said, "Don't run." We walked in the office to discuss something I knew nothing about. The casual mood during the walk shifted once we got to the principal's office. We have reason to believe you're selling something," the older white guy said with a serious ass face, like the shit was supposed to intimidate me or something. I don't know what y'all talking about. "You know we got cameras in the school," the younger one said, trying to look tougher than his uncle. Of course I knew the school had cameras, and of course I moved accordingly all morning. I couldn't imagine them catching me on nothing. My mind did the thing that minds do when backtracking everything, every move, every step in real time. My morning replayed in my head like a drive-in movie. I sat in a mental drop top and watched me from the time I pulled into the parking lot to the time those white guys walked into our classroom. Everything on the reel seemed clean, almost too perfect, until I watched myself follow the white guys out of the class and saw my red polo jacket still resting on the back of the chair. I looked at the notebook lying on my desk, nothing in there to see, but the jacket had a whole lot to see. In that moment, it seemed like me and the classroom's cameras both had a revelation. I had weed and a beeper on the inside of the jacket. We both knew I had fucked up. We both knew my mom had been right. I don't know what y'all talking about, I told the younger guy who didn't look any older than the students at Clayton. I didn't know if he was the police, student, or both on some 21 Jump Street shit. He for sure thought he was Johnny Depp about to make himself a bust to get his little career going. "Okay, Mr. Epps, we'll find it." They started checking things, started with my jacket, with my locker. I followed them while they asked me questions. "What time did you get to school? What students have you talked to today? Were you wearing anything other than the clothes on your body?" Just grilling me. When they didn't find anything in my locker, we moved outside to my car. I unlocked the doors, opened the trunk, watched them rummage through my shit. The way they meticulously went through everything, you would have thought I was Nino Brown from New Jack City. Would have thought I had niggas guarding the school, strung out sophomores smoking crack on the roof in a penthouse suite somewhere in that motherfucker. Would have thought I was a kingpin. "Where's the dope, man? Come on, just give it up," The older guy had gotten tired of it all and looked like he was ready for lunch. I don't know anything about dope. I'm just a student here, man. We went back to the principal's office and they started reviewing the school's cameras footage right in front of me. They started from the moment I had walked in and followed me until they knocked on the history teacher's door. It was all inevitable. So my intention to deny. There was no mistaking the brightness of that red polo jacket. I had watched myself walk through the school doors to my locker in the first period. Watching myself on screen was weird as fuck. Had already played everything back, but now watching it was even more awkward. This was a sequel, and I wanted no parts. I was in two places at the same time. I definitely was there in the principal's office watching the playback, and I was definitely walking around the school with that damn red alarm that a blind man would notice. By the time we got into the end of the footage, we all stared at the jacket and paused for a second. Then Johnny Depp broke the silence. Where's that red jacket, man? That's my older cousin's jacket, I said calmly. And it wasn't a fake calm. I was actually calm. But that point in my life, I had been through so much more hostile situations. I brought it up here to impress this girl. They didn't believe me for a second and put an APB for the jacket. I hoped for a different outcome. A Hail Mary, anything to get me out of the situation. A divine intervention where the jacket disappears out of the classroom window. But that wasn't happening and I knew it. My life had been too real for magic. I'd done too much dirt for genies. They were going to get that jacket. The two white guys went back to the classroom, but by that time lunch had started, so the room was locked. I knew that they knew that I knew that they knew my jacket was in the classroom. They was committed and had no problem waiting until the final lunch period was over. When they eventually came back to the principal's office, I knew what time it was. Johnny Depp was carrying a jacket and wearing a smile. I reached into my acting bag and pretended to be shocked. What? What that got to do with me? Depp pulled the weed out of the pocket and went into a complete dramatic monologue. Boy, that shit ain't none of mine. Y'all done planted that. Hell nah. Call my mama. I swear to God. Y'all better call my mama. He pulled the beeper out and I had to claim that. My beeper was my way of making money. I had to get that back no matter what. Nah, that's mine. That beeper is mine, but that weed ain't mine. The police went to doing all the dramatic shit, and that's when the real production started. They put me in handcuffs and called my mom. Me and mom lived in an apartment right behind the school, so it didn't take long for her to get there. And boy, once she got there, she became the lead actor and went into an Oscar-worthy performance. Mom went from Miss Baker from Boys in the Hood. Remember how she felt out after Ricky got shot? Yeah, that's who my mom channeled. It was so dramatic that I started checking to see if I had been shot. She did a whole scene. No, my Ty, not my baby. She screamed, then started falling out and everything. The police called one of my closest homeboys to the office to see if he had known anything. My main man, Goat, whose real name was Corey, had always held me down no matter what. We've been tight since the 9th grade, so I wasn't worried about them questioning him. Goat came into the office, and before they asked him anything, I showed him my handcuffs. Man, they ain't here talk about I'm selling weed. Goat looked at my handcuffs, looked at the cops, looked at the door, and left the school altogether. I looked out the office window and saw my boy sprinting with the Donovan Bailey form. That nigga probably still running. Because I went to jail that afternoon, I missed my last opportunity to take the SAT the following morning. The irony was that I could have taken the test my junior year. I also had opportunities to take the practice test since I was a student athlete, but I had declined. I didn't believe I needed to practice. I had never gotten a C in school and believed all I needed was one time to take the test. I knew that I'd get that score I needed for a full ride basketball scholarship. Had already passed the ACT, but I needed the SAT for a basketball scholarship. The opportunity was gone. I got locked up and I couldn't take the test. My world had ended. This was before social media, no Facebook, no Twitter, no Instagram. The coaches recruiting me had no way of knowing what happened. I was overcome with guilt because I knew I would have had to lie. I wouldn't tell the coaches what happened. I knew my high school coach might, but I wouldn't. It was extremely overwhelming. I sat locked up for about a week and a half. That may not sound like a long time, but when you're looking to get a scholarship and it's towards the end of the season, that's a very long time. Coaches look to lock down recruits before losing them to other schools. Every day, hour, minute, second matters during recruitment season. My high school coach, James Gwynn, had been covering for me the whole time I was locked up. He had been someone I trusted and always looked out for me. Gwynn persuaded some coaches to come and watch me work out after I got released. Coaches flew to Atlanta to watch me play individually and run through drills. I remember them asking me to take off my shirt to see how much weight training I need in college. They also asked questions about the SAT. What happened with your SAT? Your grades look good? Memphis and other Division I schools watched me work out and interviewed me. You looking good, man. We're going to put you on a weight program. In a 2012 ESPN article written by Dan Frettel, former Memphis assistant basketball coach Tom Schuberth was quoted as saying, "We had just lost Penny Hardaway, and I remember Tahid was a combination player, a real versatile 2-3 who could maybe play a little point. The only thing that scared us was he was so thin. It wasn't like we go look at an old guy, so he had to be pretty talented for us to go over to Atlanta to look at him." All of the questions about me being skinny and them wanting to see me without a shirt on threw me off. I didn't know how to put it into words then, but it was that slavery auction block feeling. The questions about the SAT threw me off too. I didn't know how to respond to those. Whenever SAT questions came up, I pretended not to hear. I didn't know what to tell them. But when they asked me those questions, I heard my mom's voice from the night she walked into my bedrooms and saw me bagging up all the weed. "But what is you doing? Where you about to take all this weed? That's a lot of damn weed, Ty. Why are you taking so much?" Something had told her in intuitive voice that next day would be fucked up. I have regretted not listening to my mom. I regretted that I didn't go to school without weed that Friday and then woke up Saturday and passed the SAT. I regretted not staying on Memphis radar and possibly running that show right after Penny left. I regretted the schools I missed out on that may have called my coach's office on the first Monday I sat in a jail cell. I regretted my trip to Starship that Thursday before everything went down and Bo's jinxing-ass triple beam scale. I regretted everything until the day Alabama State basketball coach John L. Williams called out of the blue and said, "Listen, we heard what happened. Don't worry. We love to have you down here. We got a full ride for you. Come visit next week and check us out." And that right there was all I needed to hear. That's how I ended up in a place that would open my social butterfly personality and my musical interests. That's where I would meet my wife, who would eventually become the mother of my 3 beautiful children. The cliche, everything happens for a reason, is real if you believe it. It took everything happening for me to end up in Montgomery, Alabama. And now looking back, I don't regret any of it. I take all that weed to school all over again. I take being locked up for a week and a half to end up right here. Man, okay, 2 Chainz. I see how you grew up. You know what I mean? That was Starships on Old National, man. That's chapter 2, man. Let us know what you think about this chapter, man. How you feeling about that? Man, his mom was definitely a superhero. Her intuition was right. He should have I don't know. I mean, could have took he didn't have to sell. He could have took maybe, $40 worth? I don't know. How much you think he should have took to school that day? He definitely should have got up and took the SAT. But, things happen for a reason, like he said, man. If you made it this far, make sure you leave a fire down in the comments. Let us know what you think about this chapter. And stay tuned for the next chapter. It's called It's a Blessing to Have a Plug. We off to the next one.